My dear members, every Motzai Shabbat we recite the prayer of Havdalah. Havdalah means separation. We thank Hashem for making a separation between the holy and the mundane, separation between the holy Shabbat and the rest of the week, separation between the holy nation of Israel and the nations of the world. When the Bnei Yisrael received the Torah at Har Sinai, Hashem declared, V'hitem li segula mikol ha'amim. You shall be a treasure to me from all the nations. Ve'atem tehiyu li mamlechet kohanim ve'goy kadosh. You shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. A holy nation. The nation of Israel is a holy nation and must maintain a clear separation in its behavior and conduct from the rest of the world. The question is, how come every Motzei Shabbat during the Havdalah we always mention Eliyahu HaNavi? We even sing his name, Eliyahu HaNavi, and emphasize his name as a model of Havdalah, a model of separation. What is the reason for that? In order to explain this, let me bring up some remarks from the parasha of this week, Parashat Pinhas. Parashat Pinhas opens with a reward granted by the Almighty himself to Pinhas, the grandson of the high priest Aharon HaKohen. For what? For an act of kana'ut, zealotry. What type of reward was it? Beriti Shalom, the reward of Shalom, peace. Peace for eliminating a couple who were in the midst of immorality in front of the people. The couple involved were Zimri ben Salu, a leader, a prince of the tribe of Shimon, and Kozbi Batsur, a Midianite princess. That's right, a princess. This goes to show the hatred of the Midianites toward the Bnei Israel. They let loose their daughters, including the king's daughter, to harlotry, to go with the Jewish men in order to make them sin, and thereby arouse the anger of Hashem and cause a massacre among the Bnei Israel. That is exactly what happened. And 24,000 men perished in that plague. So Pinhas ran quickly, took the law in his own hands, and killed the couple. For that, he received the reward of peace. What is the meaning of the reward for peace? There are three different interpretations. One is, after Pinhas killed Zimri, who was a leader in the tribe of Shimon, many of the followers from his tribe were furious and wanted to take revenge on Pinhas. So Hashem declared, Pinhas, don't be worried. You have my word of shalom, peace. No one will harm you. That's one pshat. The second pshat is that Hashem rewarded Pinhas with the title of Kehuna, which means that from now on, he and all his offspring would be Kohanim. But you might ask, Pinhas was the grandson of Aaron HaKohen, so he was a Kohen already. Rashi explains, no, only Aharon and his immediate sons were anointed as Kohanim, and all their future descendants would be automatically Kohanim. But Pinhas was born before that. He was never anointed. Therefore, he was not a Kohen. And only with this act of bravery and zealotry, he was awarded the title of Kohen. Another pshat, a third pshat, is like this. The Netziv explains in a different way. He says, normally, if a person is kind and compassionate, and later does an act which is cruel and violent, such as killing two people publicly, this act might influence him and he would become naturally violent and non-compassionate any longer. So Hashem assured him with the reward of peace, which means that this act of murder he did will not affect his character in any way. He will remain a peace-loving, kind, and compassionate person. The question is, how can a man of such stature, the head of a tribe, and Nasi, how can he fall to such a pit of immorality? Rabbi Sonnenfeld, a former chief rabbi of Jerusalem in the 1920s, he explained it this way. He said that in his mind, Zimri was thinking he was doing something reasonable. He made a compromise. Initially, the Bnei Israel went to the Moabite camp, and there the Moabite women forced them to worship their Avodah Zarah first before submitting to their demands, so that they were doing two sins: the sin of Avodah Zarah and the sin of Zenut, immorality. So Zimri proposed a compromise. Let's bring the women here to our camp, where there won't be any Avodah Zarah, and only have one Avera, one sin. Let's compromise. One sin instead of two. However, Pinhas, the Kanai, the Zealot, he said he was a strong defender of the honor of the Shem and the honor of the Torah, would not agree to such a compromise. And he killed them both. And Hashem agreed with him. That's why I gave him a reward. Now, let's understand something. The Torah is not a business deal where you make a compromise. This is the Torah from Hashem. We take it all as one unit. You can't say the halakha says, I should wear tefillin 6 days a week. Let me compromise. Only 3 times a week. That's enough. No such thing. Or Shabbat is around 25 hours. Let me compromise. I'll keep the Shabbat, 12 hours, 15 hours, 23 hours. No such thing. Shabbat is from sunset Friday evening until Shabbat after dark. Not 1 minute less. I heard once some people say they would never eat non-kosher meat, but they would compromise. They would go to a non-kosher restaurant and eat fish. Wow. What a horrible thought. What a disgrace. God forbid such a perversion of halakha should exist in our community. When it comes to halakha, we simply cannot make compromises. Not the slightest deviation from the dictates of the Shulchan Aruch. Listen to this story that happened in the time of the great sage, the great posek, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein Alav Shalom, when he was living in the old country in Russia, before he came to America. This was in the early 1930s. A Jewish man who hated his own people was a moser, an informer to the Russian government. He was a Rasha. He collaborated with the Russian authorities by reporting all kinds of falsehoods about his Jewish brethren. And many Jews were punished with fines and prison sentences because of him. Everyone disliked him because he caused a lot of suffering to the Jewish people. when he was about to die, he called the Chevra Kadisha and he gave them a copy of his will, where it said that being that he was such a great Rasha, now he wanted to make teshuvah. How? He wanted the Chevra Kadisha to shame him and humiliate him by mutilating his body and burying him that way in pieces. That was his last will. That was his sava'ah. After he died, the Chevra Kadisha had a dilemma. They didn't know what to do. There is a law that we must listen to the tzava. We had to listen to the last will of a person. But there's also a law that we are not allowed to mutilate the body of a Jew. So they had a big problem. They turned to Rav Moshe Feinstein alav shalom for a psak, a ruling on how to proceed. He said to them, Chas v'shalom, do not listen to him. The law says it is forbidden to mutilate a dead body. We follow the law and no compromise. Bury him as usual, like everyone. But Rabbi, he said he wants to make teshuvah, and this is his way for teshuvah. And Moshe answered, after death, a person has no control over his body, and the law is the law. Of course, they listened to Moshe Feinstein, and they buried that Rasha just like everybody else. 3 weeks later, government officials came to investigate the burial. They asked the Chevra Kadisha to exhume the coffin, open it, and examine the body. And when they saw that everything was fine, the burial was normal, they were satisfied. However, as they were about to leave, the Chevra Kadisha asked the government officials, what happened? How come did they come to investigate, which they never did? But they never did this before. What's different? They said, this Rasha, he sent them a letter 3 weeks before he died, that the Jews are going to get back to him, and they're going to get revenge on him, they're going to mutilate his body, and they're going to humiliate him. So he wanted the government to make sure to punish them for it. Mashimu, such a Rasha. Even after death, he wanted to cause harm to his fellow Jews. But you see, Rav Moshe did not compromise the law. And he was right. Perhaps he was such a great sage. Perhaps he had Ruach HaKodesh. Now, getting back to our question, why do we mention Eliyahu Nabi every Motzai Shabbat? See, Pinhas did not compromise either. Zimri brought the girls and he wanted to make them part of the Bnei Israel, join the nation with their Avodah Zarah and their worship of statues. But Pinhas insisted on separation, on Havdalah. We do not mingle with the Goyim. We are Am Kadosh, a holy nation. We do not marry their daughters, and we don't let them marry our daughters, as it says in the Pasuk. Velo tithaten ba'am. Thou shalt not marry them. Bittecha lo titen livno. Your daughter you shall not give to his son. Ubito lo tikach livnecha. And his daughter you shall not take for your son. Since Pinhas was the first one to insist on separation, to insist on Havdalah, and we know that Pinhas, who Eliyahu? Pinhas is Eliyahu Nabi. That is why on Motzai Shabbat, when we say Havdalah, when we declare loudly the separation between the holy and the secular, when we declare loudly the separation between Israel and the Goyim, it is only proper, only right to mention the name of the person who started it in the first place, Eliyahu Navi. So, Rabotai, Let us follow the lesson of not compromising on halakha, like Eliyahu did, and like Moshe Feinstein did. And let us conduct ourselves strictly as per our laws and traditions. Be'ezrat Hashem. This will hasten the coming of our Mashiach Sidkenu. Amen.